This is very good. This is what a leader looks like. Okay. So I had to. I just had to. This is going to be like maybe less than 15 minutes. Um, let's see if we can fix it. Okay, wait. I don't want to end screen capture. Hopefully, I'm still going. Okay, yeah, I'm still going. So here, check it out. Let me go to YouTube. I'm already in YouTube. Let me go to yeah, back to YouTube. I was getting confused on how the hell I got this shit set up. Okay, now let's go to history. Less than 5 minutes.
TikTok made me try this lazy girl litter box hack. I stopped trying to hide litter box
This is what a
smells.
leader
I
looks
stopped
like,
snooping.
y'all.
Like that is
Here
a
you
long
go.
time. A lot of things can happen. Welcome back in. I'm Rob Finnerty. We're going to talk about the drones in a minute, but right now I want to talk about something else. Everything is coming up Trump. And for whatever reason, it's not getting old. Because every time something happens,
minutes,
every
y'all.
time something is made whole again, the country heals a little bit more. And it has been remarkable to witness. You ever heard this? In the kingdom of the blind, the two-eyed man rules supreme. And right now, Donald Trump is that two-eyed man, leading the country out of one of the darkest periods we've ever seen. If you don't believe me, take a look at this. According to a poll, over 1,000 registered voters just ranked Joe Biden as the worst president in modern American history. Last on the list, coming in below Jimmy Carter and below Richard Nixon. And right now, Joe Biden is on track to leave the White House with the lowest approval rating that we've ever seen. Lower than Donald Trump after January 6th, lower than George Bush during the financial crisis, lower than Richard Nixon right after he resigned. Jerry Baker writing in the Wall Street Journal today that this might be the first time since the 1980s that we've had a GOP president with the standing, the authority, and the legislative and executive resources to reshape politics in the U.S. and abroad. Translation being 42 days after the election, and Donald Trump could be the next Ronald Reagan. Politico today, writing that what is happening right now is the difference between a shocking victory in 2016 and a commanding victory in 2024. And today, for the first time in 45 years, the stock market finishing red for a ninth straight day. The Dow has not had 9 losing days in a row since Jimmy Carter in 1978. That is the legacy that Joe Biden's leaving behind. And on the heels of all of that, even Mitt Romney, the 2012 Republican standard bearer, a man from Massachusetts that never should have been the nominee in the first place, finally admitting after all of this time that Donald Trump is now the Republican Party.
MAGA is the Republican Party, and Donald Trump is the Republican Party today. And if you were to ask me who the nominee will be in 2028, I think it'll be J.D. Vance. The Republican Party has become the party of the working class, middle class voter. And you've got to give Donald Trump credit for having done that.
The Pew Research Center, again, as far to the left as you can possibly get, says that Americans are expressing warmer feelings right now toward Donald Trump, warmer than ever before. Morning Consult, just coming out with a poll. Donald Trump's net favorability is now over 50%. It's the highest it's ever been. Even CNN, again, no friend of Donald Trump, no friend of the incoming administration, found that 54% of Americans approve of how Trump is handling the return to the White House. Even Van Jones, a guy that used to work for Barack Obama and now works at CNN, admits that the legacy media have been complete idiots. His words, not mine. Take a look.
Guys, can we cut it out? Donald Trump is not an idiot. Donald Trump, let me just be very clear. Donald Trump is smarter than me, you, and all critics. You know how I know? Because he has the White House, the Senate, the House.
Totally agree.
The popular vote. He has a massive media ecosystem bigger than the mainstream built around him and for him, and a religious fervor in a political movement around him. And his best buddy is the richest person in the history of the world, and the most relevant Kennedy is with him. This dude is a phenomenon. He is the most powerful human on earth and in our lifetime. And we're still saying, well, how was this guy? We look like idiots.
Yeah, they're saying it. We're not saying it. The legacy media have never been this weak. And the days of Don Lemon and Anderson Cooper and all their buddies taking shots on New Year's Eve on CNN, those days are over. This program is now beating Anderson Cooper. And suddenly, every time Donald Trump takes a shot at the legacy media, it doesn't feel like he's complaining. It feels like he's telling the truth. And Trump's ability to finally call out all of these people and expose the people at these national cable networks, the worst people in the industry, have given rise to independent media, places like Newsmax. Did you see what Donald Trump did yesterday? This didn't get a ton of attention, but the CEO of the largest tech hedge fund in China traveled to Mar-a-Lago to announce that they are investing $100 billion in the United States. And Donald Trump sat there on national television and asked him for more money, as only Donald Trump can.
That's why I stopped taking gabapentin and any other medication for my nerve pain, or I would have lost my foot. And if you also suffer from nerve pain, you need to stop doing this because you're only treating the symptoms, not the root cause. Here's why I never used my nerve pain pills again. After years of dealing with constant numbness, burning pain, and stabbing sensations in my feet and hands, my doctor prescribed almost every available medication, and all they did was make me tired and drowsy. I was so exhausted, tired of just surviving with constant pain and tingling, struggling to sleep at
Money, as only Donald Trump can.
I ask him right now, would you make it $200 million? He can actually, believe it or not, he can actually afford to do that. Would you do that?
Well, my promise is 100, but he's now asking to do more. I think with your leadership, my partnership with you, with your support, I will try to make it happen.
That's good. Fine, 200. He'll make it happen. 200 million investment.
He is a great negotiator.
You see him pull him in like that?
Damn.
That is remarkable. That is remarkable. And that guy who is worth billions of dollars just lets this 6'3" Donald Trump pull him over and kind of give him a little noogie on the top of the head. Nobody ever talks about what Donald Trump is good at. The media have spent so long trying to tear him apart that they've overlooked everything that makes Donald Trump so darn effective. Donald Trump has more human intelligence, a higher EQ, emotional intelligence, than any politician that I've ever seen. A guy just flew over from Japan and offered Donald Trump $100 billion, and Trump said that he wants more money, and the guy actually said back to Trump, we're going to see what we can do. What's another $100 billion? We are way beyond the art of the deal right now. Here's Stephanie Ruhle, and if you don't know who she is, don't worry about it, on what it was like dealing with the Trump campaign and Trump himself versus the Kamala campaign.
If I were to want to connect with VP Harris or President Biden, there's 50 people between me and that. I could write a note that maybe could get to somebody, then through Pony Express and a pigeon, something might end up in a mailbox near them. Yeah. And I called DJT to say, yo, can I have an interview? He told me to go myself, but I still was able to connect with him. Yeah.
But he still picked up.
Of course, I wish that she told her audience on MSNBC all of that fascinating information before the election. But everyone in the media right now wants a seat at the table. We've already got one. But livelihoods are now on the line for the rest of the network, so they're all playing nice. But it's not going to be easy. Old habits die hard, and the media are going to have a hard time flipping from 9 years of attacking Trump to at least trying to cover him fairly. Take a listen to the head of the ALCU on how they're already planning on fighting Donald Trump on day one.
Tell me about how you at the ACLU are thinking about your plans to try to defend American civil liberties in this term versus the first term.
local governments, the state attorneys general, the governors, the mayors. We have this whole plan around a firewall for freedom, we call it. The idea that these local officials can really play an important role in stopping the worst of the government abuses.
How so?
Well, for instance, when they're going to try to detain and deport all these hundreds of thousands, up to 1 million people, that's an operation that they have the legal power to do the raids, but the logistics. And they're going to need mayors and governors
or city councils to either give them access to police officers or not, jails. Where are you going to house all these folks? Right? And so part of what we're doing is we're preparing executive orders and we're organizing our folks to put pressures on elected officials so they don't roll over.
It's just remarkable. That's the head of the ACLU right there, like dinosaurs in the late Cretaceous period. They can see the asteroid off in the distance, and it means their imminent doom, the end. And yet they don't change. They don't do anything. They don't go in the other direction. And look, I get that there's going to be opposition. That's part of it. But is that right there the right strategy? Attack from day one? We're in the midst of a total shift right now in the culture. And the legacy media have two choices: evolve or fade off into the dustbin of history. Because what might have worked 4 years ago, I promise you, will not work over the next 4 years.
Nope.
And joining us now for more is someone who's going to play a huge role in that. Donald Trump's new director of the Voice for America, Carrie Lake, is joining us now. Carrie, so good to see you.
Hey.
Good to see you as well. It's fun to watch this kind of meltdown of the media, isn't it?
It's remarkable.
As they try to come back into the fold.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm undecided because, obviously this is our industry. You were an anchor in Arizona for more than 20 years. But I just think you evolve or you die. And I think that people, all of us here at Newsmax, yourself, you've got to have those dogfighting skills. You've got to be able to adapt. And these people at CNN and MSNBC and David Muir, who's never seen a mirror that he doesn't look into twice, these people are so fat and happy that I think they're going to go extinct over the next 4 years, Carrie.
Yeah.
Well, they have two choices. They go extinct. They already are pretty much. I mean, their ratings are in the toilet. Or they realize that America spoke and that people love President Trump. They love America first. They love their country. They didn't want to vote for the demise of their country. They voted for the man who was going to fight for them. So it's time for them to come around and be fair journalists. Look, you don't have to join the President Trump fan club, but just cover him fairly. Stop with the character assassination. Stop with the smear campaign. We're going into the 4 most historic years, I believe, possibly in our history. And, I would just appeal to them. You don't want to miss out on covering this incredibly historic period. You don't want to miss out on covering the most consequential president in our lifetimes and possibly the most consequential president in the history of our country, one of the most consequential leaders in human history. So, lick your wounds, swallow your pride, and jump in and be a journalist and save yourself right now. Save yourself by being a journalist and maybe save the industry while we're at it.
Yeah, I think it's remarkable. PolitiFact, with their biggest lie of the year, that the Haitian migrants are eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio. And we're going to talk about this in a little bit tonight, but not the cover-up of Joe Biden. Carrie, we were talking about this 4 years ago here on Newsmax, and I can remember just people in polite company kind of laughed at us like we were like heretics. And I was like, well, wait a second. I'm seeing it with my own eyes. I'm not a doctor, but you don't have to be a doctor to realize that something's not right with Joe Biden. The cheese slipped off the cracker a long time ago, and that was evident to anybody who was open and honest and willing to look.
And to be honest, Rob, I think it was evident to the people in the corporate media as well. But they were continuing to push their gaslighting on the American people. Everything's fine. Look, don't look over here. Look over here instead. And then when they realized the polling was not going to go their way, they had to make a change. It was as if they were all on cue, and they immediately all turned on him in hopes of getting a better candidate. And the irony of it all is, I can't even imagine that I'm saying this, they got a worse candidate. They did. They got a candidate who the American people liked even less than Joe Biden, which is saying something. And then they tried to push that and gaslight the people again. And the American people have a really good BS detector. I really believe that. Yeah. And they can smell the BS that the media's been pushing, and they've had it up to here with it. They just don't want any more of the lies. And so my message to the media, the corporate media, is come around. Realize that you've been wrong, and come around and start being an honest reporter again, an honest network again, and cover this incredible moment in history, or miss out on it and go extinct.
Yeah, Kristen Welker, I was upset with the former president for giving NBC the first interview since becoming president-elect. And then I saw him just handle Kristen Welker, and they're so out of touch. She was like, and are you still going to go forward with deporting criminals that are here illegally? And he was like, yeah. And I felt like being like, Carrie, 60% of the American people, that's a CBS poll, 60% of the Americans support deporting illegals that are here that have committed crimes. They're so out of touch with the mainstream. I want to talk about you. You're going to have a big role in this, and you're going to have the president's ear. You're going to run Voice for America. Donald Trump said on Truth Social that Carrie Lake will ensure the American values and ensure that they're broadcast around the world fairly and accurately, unlike the lies spread by the fake news media. You were an anchor yourself in the media for a long time. What's your plan?
I just want to see fair, honest coverage from Voice of America. I want to see them covering America and our freedoms and our democracy around the world. This is a media outlet that is geared toward the international market. So we want to be telling the story of America and in a fair and accurate way. Starting January 20th, it's Morning in America again, and we want to make sure that we're spreading the message of America across the globe. Some historic events will be happening in the next 4 years, and we want to have fair, accurate coverage of those events, fair, accurate coverage of this administration. And I'm looking forward to growing the audience even more and making sure that our tax dollars are well spent. If we can, we'll get rid of redundancy. Where there's waste, we'll get rid of waste, and we will start making sure we have a very pro-America and honest news outlet that is broadcasting to the world.
Well, Carrie, I wish you the best of luck. We'll be with you there every step of the way. Voice for America needs office space. You could take over that NPR building right in the middle of Washington, D.C., that $100 million building they've got there. Carrie Lake, great having you on. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, I want to get back to the drones. And I didn't start the broadcast with the drones, even though every fiber in my being told me to do that. But they are flying over again tonight, 30 straight nights, 12 states. And look, I get that people are tired of this, but I also think that you deserve answers. I think we all deserve answers. And we're going to have more on this with an unbelievable guest in just a few minutes. But I'm not done with this story. And we are now on the verge of, and I mean within the next 30 days, of what could be a massive disclosure about what's really going on in the skies across the world now. It's not just happening here in the US. The drones are man-made, many of them, yes, probably launched to divert our attention from what else might be happening in the skies. Maybe they're not all drones. The question is, what happens now? Is this a government psyop to keep forever wars going and double or triple or quadruple the U.S. defense budget on Joe Biden's way out the door? Keep that war in Ukraine going. Or is this meant to distract or maybe even unite?
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
These drones have now been seen over U.S. military installments and bases and airfields multiple times, which is a felony. The drones are flying over restricted space, private airports. These are not hobbyists. These are not hobbyists. Those are hobbyists committing felonies, if that's the answer to all of this. Commercial drones are not allowed to exceed 400 feet in altitude. The truth is that these drones are breaking the law every single day. This all started 30 days ago on November the 18th. It has continued every single night, uninterrupted since then. Donald Trump said yesterday, again, this from a man who's going to be president in 34 days, that the government knows what's going on and they are deliberately hiding the truth from the American people. We will have more on that coming up. We're going to be talking with a former Department of Defense official who might know the answer.
A new conversation for us within DOD. I mean, as I highlighted, drones flying, whether here or overseas, is not something new, right? And especially in the United States with 1 million registered drones and 8,500 flying on any given day. Similar to vehicles that may inadvertently approach a base, the same can be true for drones.
It feels like Roswell all over again. The government doubling down again today, claiming that what thousands of people have now seen is perfectly normal, while Congress has already held multiple hearings over the past several months, trying to get to the bottom of what people are seeing in the skies above, UFOs and UAPs.
Clear. UAP are real. Advanced technologies not made by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe. Furthermore, the U.S. is in possession of UAP technologies, as are some of our adversaries. I believe we are in the midst of a multi-decade secretive arms race, one funded by misallocated taxpayer dollars and hidden from our elected representatives and oversight bodies.
Okay, that was Louis Elizondo, a former Department of Defense official, author of the book Eminent Inside the Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs. Lou is with us tonight. Lou, great to have you on. I want to get your take on what we're all seeing. I saw one on Saturday with my son. Are these all drones, or is something else going on up there?
Well, Rob, first of all, thank you for having me, and that's a great question. The reality is what you just saw previously by the good general providing a public statement saying that all these are registered civilian aircraft. Look, the guest right before me, Miss Lake, said it right. The American people have a really good BS meter, and I suspect people don't buy this line of logic. Look, we all know the difference between a quadcopter and a helicopter and a Cessna. That's not what we're talking about here. And we have in one statement, the Pentagon saying we have no idea what they are, but we're pretty sure they're not foreign adversarial technology. And then as of today, literally the House of Foreign Affairs Committee chairman himself, Mr. McCall, said that he believes they're from China. And then you have the Pentagon coming out saying, well, actually, these are not our drones. And later on, or actually even today, they could turn around and say, well, actually, we kind of know what they are, but they're still not ours and not foreign adversarial. The bottom line is that civilian drones don't fly in controlled U.S. airspace over restricted areas. They're not supposed to. We're seeing a rash of this. I have videos on my phone from Andrews Air Force Base, Langley Air Force Base. I wish the Pentagon and this administration would be consistent with their messaging, because all it's doing is turning people really away from trusting their government at a time, by the way, where trust is already at a historical low.
Okay, if aliens are here, and I think throughout your hearings we've concluded that something is here. What are they doing, and maybe more importantly, why haven't they made contact?
Wow. Okay. Let's try to unpack that. So what are they doing if they are here? Well, they could be doing all sorts of things. As human beings, what do we do when we're on the African Serengeti? Well, we study. We fly our helicopters. We might dart a wildebeest and then take blood samples, and we're looking at its dietary migration patterns, its health, etc. It could be simply something just as curiosity. Why do we go to the moon? Why do we go to Mars? As far as the second part of your question, that's a little more complicated. This is a topic that's been going on now in the U.S. government. Your taxpayer dollars have been paying for serious study for the last 70 years into the topic of UAP, or what was once known in the vernacular as UFOs. Right. This is all the while, and this is one of the reasons why I don't trust the Pentagon, because I was there. The whole time, the Pentagon was telling people UFOs are silly, UAP are silly, there's nothing to see here. We're spending millions of dollars of taxpayer money with the consent of the Department of Defense to investigate none other than UFOs. And exactly what's happening here. You have an air flight safety issue. In some cases, these UAP were getting so close to combat formations, they were literally splitting the combat formation down the middle. So Think about that for a minute. 2 F-18s flying in a combat formation, and these things splitting the formation right down the middle. My concern with these drones is right now, Rob, is that you have this schizophrenic approach within the U.S. government, and they're hoping at this point anything that will stick to the wall will work. And this is why they had a private conversation with the House Intel Committee. Notice how they didn't do it publicly. They just said, we're going to have a private conversation. This is after days and days and weeks of saying, folks, we have no idea what's going on here. We don't know if they're Russian. We don't know if they're ours. We don't know if there's something else potentially.
Lou, is the narrative that these are from Iran and China, is that narrative BS?
They're not from Iran. Look, let's make it very simple here. If you have a large, as some of these have been reported being the size of an SUV, those are not average hobbyist drones. So that's a bunch of malarkey. We're talking about something very sophisticated that can carry a heavy payload, something that is being electronically powered by a large battery and has loiter capability in some cases between 5 hours and even 10 hours. That's well beyond any type of commercial drone technology that we utilize. Right now, you're lucky if a drone can last more than 15, 20 minutes before it's got to come back and recharge. And then you've got a line of sight issue. When you're trying to communicate with the drone, you're using radio frequency primarily. And radio frequencies are being limited by line of sight. So if these are moving at 100 miles or 50 miles over the horizon, you need some aerial platform, either an airplane or a satellite, to serve as a repeater. So that means infrastructure, that means people, that means resources.
Yeah.
And that would or China doing this.
Okay, we've got about a minute left. I've got a million questions, but two, and I'm looking. You've got a nice illustration of that, what you just mentioned in your book, which I have here with me. Are we on the verge of a massive disclosure?
I think you can't. There's an old saying from Bob Marley, you can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. I think there is new information that is going to be coming out very, very soon that is going to change the very nature of this conversation. With that said, I have to let the system work the way it is supposed to work. But yes, I would stay tuned very closely.
Okay, you make it seem like you know. But you can't for
Ross,
security
this isn't the first time we've been dealing with the drones. 4 years ago, we had the same issue in Colorado, Nebraska, and Kansas.
Right.
This is nothing new. We've been dealing with this now for quite some time.
Okay. When you testified before Congress, you said that we are in possession of UAP technology. And this one, I've always scratched my head. So Roswell, New Mexico, 1947, alien spacecraft allegedly crashed. The U.S. government found bodies, multiple alien bodies, not Homo sapiens, biologics, and they recovered the craft. If this technology is so advanced and they can fly light years to get to Earth, why are they crashing when they get here?
Because there's a vulnerability. There's a very specific vulnerability that our scientists in the Pentagon and in the intelligence community were able to derive based upon the analysis. And it turns out, look, we have great aircraft all the time, and guess what? They crash.
Right. But our aircraft aren't traveling light years, right?
Well, space and time is relative, as we're beginning to realize. Once we understand, if you take away the Newtonian, the model of the universe, and look at it more in Einstein's model of relativity and space and time being flexible, you realize there are some shortcuts in Mother Nature.
Okay. Lou Elizondo, hope to continue this conversation very soon. The book is Eminent Inside the Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs. Louis, I really appreciate the conversation. Thank you,
Rob. My honor and privilege, and a big shout out to your audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Also this, as we wait for transparency from the federal government on these so-called drones, UFOs, whatever's going on out there, we are quietly inching closer to World War III. And today, representatives from the UK, France, and Germany all warned about a growing threat from Iran.
Iran's stockpile of high enriched uranium has also reached unprecedented levels, again without any credible civilian justification. It gives Iran the capability to rapidly produce sufficient fissile material for multiple nuclear weapons.
I'm in the Associates in Science in Nursing program. Back in the 90s, I was in a nursing program.
Fissile material for multiple nuclear weapons.
So we are now dealing with this drone situation that our government calls legal and lawful, maybe to distract us all from what's happening right now in Iran. They are closer than ever to producing a nuclear weapon. That is a fact this evening. They are closer than ever before. Inauguration day, I'm telling you, can't come soon enough. 34 days to go. Coming up next tonight on Finity, PolitiFact says that illegal Haitian migrants eating pets in Ohio was the biggest political lie of the year. Really? We're going to explain why the corporate media is still covering up for Joe Biden in detail. Next.
Yeah, I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there had been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food.
Or never seen a mirror that he doesn't look into multiple times. Oh, really, Dave? You called the city manager in Springfield, Ohio. Great journalisming right there, Dave Muir. The most interesting part of the story is that it is probably true. According to many Springfield, Ohio residents, Haitians were indeed eating animals around the community, cats and dogs. It's raining cats and dogs, they say. Not in Springfield, Ohio, because they're being eaten. It's a practice called Haitian voodoo. Take a look.
These Haitians are running into trash cans. They're running into buildings. They're running into... they flipping cars in the middle of the street. And I don't know how, like, y'all can be comfortable with this. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them.
This is not an indictment of the Haitian people. But do you remember the left-wing media responded? They all told us that the Haitian people were amazing, hardworking, extremely generous, people you'd love to invite into your homes for the holidays. Take a look.
You know, if you ever want to meet honest, hardworking, extraordinary people that come to give and not to take, it's the Haitian community in this country.
What is he talking about? Right? This is not an indictment of the Haitian people, but if that's happening, you can't do that. And it wasn't just members of the media. Members of Congress like Eric Swalwell couldn't believe what Donald Trump started.
What in the hell is this? The chairman tweets, protect our ducks and kittens in Ohio because he goes down some crazy rabbit hole, completely debunked that aliens are eating pets? My God, are you okay, Mr. Chairman?
That is the president-elect saving a duck and a cat, and you dated a Chinese spy named Fang Fang. Why don't we have a conversation about that? So the people over at PolitiFact want us all to believe that Haitian migrants were eating cats, and that was the biggest lie of the year. A story that is very likely not a lie, and not the greatest political lie that we've ever been told. This is the greatest lie. Joe Biden is ready to run for president in 2024, we were told. We were told that he's not in cognitive decline. He doesn't have Alzheimer's or dementia. We were told he's fit to serve for another 4 years. Here's the media covering up for the big guy.
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden is the best Biden ever. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been.
President Biden has a photographic memory. His understanding and mastery of a complicated geopolitical situation, remarkable. He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
Have trouble walking sometimes? Yeah, so did FDR. He wanted GD war. But he's totally focused. He's very sharp.
They say he's sharp in meetings.
Hilarious.
FDR had trouble walking because he had polo and was wheelchair bound. The fact is that Joe Biden is still president. And that tells you everything you need to know about our media. If Joe Biden doesn't fall flat on his face during that debate with Donald Trump in June, Kamala Harris never becomes the nominee. It was only after the debate that the media, Joe Scarborough, David Muir, and Democrats in Washington realized that they couldn't keep the lie going anymore. And if Jill Biden knew about Joe's real condition, and Kamala knew, and Joe's doctors knew, and the staff at the White House knew, and his cabinet knew, this is the biggest political cover-up and lie in American history, bigger than Watergate. And the truth is, they all knew how bad Joe really was and still is.
Yeah.
They knew, all of them, and they lied about it for years, and they hid the truth from you. And right now, they are living with a mess wholly created by them. That is the biggest lie of the year. Not some fake story that's probably true about Haitian migrants eating cats and dogs in Ohio. And one day, years from now, somebody's going to write a book about what's going on at the White House right now, and the greatest cover-up and the greatest lie that we've ever seen in our country's political history.
I swear, the next person who stops me on the street and asks me how I lost 40 pounds in 2 months, I'm going to
lie that we've ever seen in our country's political history. All right, coming up next on Finity, a big one. Liz Cheney could be in deep trouble, and not because she supports endless wars that have killed many innocent Americans, but for possibly committing criminal witness tampering with the January 6th committee's star witness, Cassidy Hutchinson. In trouble with the law, Republicans on the House Oversight Subcommittee are calling for a federal criminal investigation into the former congresswoman for criminal witness tampering with the January 6th committee star witness Cassidy Hutchinson. In a new report about the failures of the Jan 6 committee, Republicans say they have evidence that Liz Cheney secretly contacted Hutchinson through an encrypted text messaging app right before Hutchinson testified before the committee, where she claimed that Donald Trump was so enraged when Secret Service agents refused to take him to the Capitol on January 6th that he lunged for the steering wheel, something I asked the former president about after the testimony 2 years ago. Take a look.
There's something wrong with her? Is there something wrong? She said, I jumped from a car and I started strangling. Think of this. I started strangling a Secret Service agent who I know very well. I grabbed the steering wheel of a car that said that I wanted guns at my rally. I didn't want guns. I have to speak too, and I don't want guns for anybody.
The steering wheel? Is there any truth
to that? Of course not.
Is that ridiculous?
In fact, the Secret Service came out and said that this story is totally false.
Yeah.
The woman is living in fantasy land.
The entire story was ultimately debunked. Even the Secret Service driver driving that day said it didn't happen. Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett joining us now for more. Congressman, great to see you.
Great seeing you, brother. You've aged well the last 2 years.
I haven't seen you in a while, not since the morning, but it's good to have you on. Merry Christmas. We looked into it. The max penalty for witness tampering in a federal investigation is 20 years in prison. What happens to Liz Cheney?
Well, we need to investigate this thing, and we need to do it to the fullest extent of the law. I think January 6th, I remember when I was on the floor, I was the last person to leave there, and I volunteered to speak to the committee, and they never would call me up because I realized they didn't want to know what happened on January 6th. They just wanted to know the politics and the suspected politics that was involved in it. I had my run-ins with her multiple times when she was in leadership, and this is just a culmination of that. And everybody, and that's why they're looking for a preemptive pardon, I believe, from Biden.
Okay, 34 days to go. That was my next question. And the president, he's pardoning everybody. I don't think he knows who he's pardoning, but he and Barack Obama have pardoned more individuals. You know, Jimmy Carter pardoned people, draft dodgers, okay, in the 70s. Obama and Biden have now pardoned more people than any other president, all of them combined. Do you think Liz Cheney gets a pardon?
I do. I believe the people around it, because she will sing like a little canary in a cave, in a mine, excuse me. And I think they'll be covering their butts as far as they can. Yep. I think January 6th might have been the only incursion this country's had in the last 40 years where the Cheneys did not profit from it.
That's a good point. Cassidy Hutchinson, she's profited from book sales. She's still doing media tours. Is she held accountable for lying?
She needs to be. The national media has created this whole thing by allowing these people to get out and lie. You remember the ABC, the wrap up or whatever they did, you know, and it was just it was a nightmare of just lies and everything else. I was on, ABC had me on for some reason afterwards, and I said, you know, I think the reruns on the Cartoon Network and SpongeBob had higher ratings. You know, they hired a ABC producer, I believe it was, to produce the final show, you know, and I said, are they going to have walk-up music? I mean, this thing was just marketed as for television, and it fell flat on its face. America was sick and tired of it, and they're sick and tired of the lies, and that whole bunch of it up there needs to be held accountable every day.
Donald Trump's president-elect, they all failed. It feels great to say that, by the way. Just quickly, about 30 seconds. The drones, what are they? What's going on?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think you've got some private contractors out there. I think somebody is being operated by the Chinese, and they're doing a test, and we failed that test. The hot air balloon that flew over the country from the Aleutian Islands in the Pacific to the Atlantic to Myrtle Beach, where it's finally shot down. Mm-hmm. They got enough spies on the ground. They got spies that are probably sleeping with members of Congress. All they're doing is testing. This is a test, and we are failing the test. Our military, our politicians, and our media. And that's what their Chinese are looking at. They're going to do this in real life one day, and we're going to have a problem. They're going to put 500 or 1,000 of these things up in the air. One of these is going to get sucked into a jet, and it's going to knock it down. But they're going to put He's up in there with biological entities in there or a dirty bomb, and we're going to have a problem. That is the war of the future, and we better be ready for it.
I hope not. Tim Burchett, great to see you this evening. Thanks so much for being with me. We'll have you back soon. Merry Christmas, by the way.
Have a very politically incorrect Merry Christmas,
yes,
brother.
I always do. Always do. Thank you. Up next, Tim Burchett there. So commercial airlines are boycotting flights to Israel over safety concerns.
Oh, excuse me. Hey, excuse me.
I think that's the end of
I'm trying to pick up my health allowance card. Health allowance? What are you talking about?
That might be the end. Yeah, they always go into this bullshit on.
What does the Bamule?
I don't know who the hell does these, but yeah, they. Thanks so much for coming through. And let's see. I think that is pretty much it for today, y'all. Damn, it's like 60 of y'all here. I want to give y'all something. 58. Let's see. What can we do? My videos. Let's see. I wonder if y'all caught this one. Did y'all catch this one?
It was just a wow. All right, what up, y'all? We're about to go live right quick. We're going to go to Barry Cunningham. Barry Cunningham.
Today, as a former Democrat, I will be a first-time
I don't like the sound on that. That sound is weird.
All right, what up, y'all? We're about to go live right quick. We're going to go to Barry Cunningham.
Nah, that don't sound too good. I don't know what's going on over there.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I want to say welcome back to Mr. David Anderson. How you doing, sir?
If you just don't call me Dave, I feel like every time I talk to you, I'm about to be audited.
No, not at all. We're glad to have you back. The people really enjoyed you. The first question I wanted to ask, getting right into it, is that there's a lot of talk online about Roland Martin and Oprah Winfrey.
Certainly.
And what some will refer to as the campaign payment scandals.
Yes.
For those unaware, can you please first clarify what's the issue people have with Oprah's relationship or receiving funding from Kamala Harris?
Well, the first thing is obvious. Oprah's a billionaire with a B several times over. She does not need the money. But again, that's not me pocket watching. Shout out to my boy Pocket Watching with JT. Great channel if you haven't subscribed to it. But here's the thing. Oprah did not get paid a dime to endorse Obama. She didn't get paid a dime to endorse Stacey Abrams. She didn't get paid a dime to endorse Cory Booker or 1,000,001 other people that she's donated her time, energy, effort, and platform to over the past few decades. So for me, I'm trying to look at it and say, if you didn't charge any of these people, why are you charging this particular person? And we all know what the reason is. I believe, and I don't have any tangible proof, but I can look at someone's behavior and deduce that you didn't believe in this woman, but if you're going to do it, okay, well, you're going to pay my production company $2.5 million, and you're going to, I'll do an interview with you. And then I want you to go back and watch that interview with Kamala, speaking specifically about Oprah. Oprah looked annoyed so many times in there. Like, if I'm giving you softball questions and people are talking to you about how they lost their house or they had to downsize or whatever, and your first response is, well, I was born in a middle-class family and my mother was raising 2 brown girls to be black. And what does it have to do with this white couple that is telling you that they are PO and too poor to afford the OR? Like, that's problematic. The other part of that is it reeks of impropriety. So, for example, Montel Williams, who we all know was a talk show host and made a killing in the game. He was one of the first black men I see go head up with Maury Povich, Phil Donahue, even Geraldo. He was an amazing dude. I would say about 10, 15 years ago, maybe a little bit early, he was doing infomercials where he was promoting a healthy lifestyle because of his medical conditions and things like that. So he had certain products. If your kids don't like veggies, well, you hide them in the smoothies. And remember that? But if you notice at the bottom, it said, this is a paid commercial advertisement. This is an infomercial, so on and so forth. When you're being paid and you're looked at as a respectable member of the media or a respected member of the media, and you don't disclose that, it becomes an issue because it looks like impropriety. And then the FCC says that not only are you supposed to disclose it, but you're also supposed to make sure that you're not leaning into such advocacy where you're trying to lopsidedly poison the electorate. And that's the thing that got people looking at Oprah sideways, and it's darn sure the thing that's gotten people looking at Roland Martin sideways. Because I can tell you from experience, see, we can talk in the comments about what you think and how you feel, and you're entitled to your feelings, but you're not entitled to your own facts. As a person that has spent, I would say, a good 70% of his life in mainstream media, I'll give you a more recent example. When I produced the Ricky Smiley Morning Show and we put them into syndication, we had to deal with the FCC because you're dealing with a mainstream actual media outlet. And stay with me here because I want to be clear. When you have a candidate on, whether they're in a primary, whether they're in the general election, you have to, according to the FCC, when you're licensed by the Federal Communications Commission, you have to offer equal time to their opponents. If you do not, you are in violation of FCC mandates.
And that's Trump's issue with NBC with the lawsuit. He's saying
absolutely
they did the SNL skit and other stuff, and he feels that he didn't get
absolutely because fair is fair because they had the same issues when Trump did Saturday Night Live. Go back and look when Trump did Saturday Night Live, the Democrats was hollering the same thing. And so when it came to Ricky's situation, we would have Barack Obama on, but then I would have to reach out to the Clinton campaign, and I had to reach out. Yeah, reach out to John Edwards' campaign. I reached out to God rest his soul. Oh, help me! I can see him clear as day. Oh gosh, I can see. You know who I'm talking about. Oh, he died. Oh my gosh, it's John McCain. Reach out to John McCain's campaign. And if they decline, cool, but I still had to keep a record of it so that nobody can say, no, there's some equal time stuff.
Oh, it's just the fact of, all right, whether they accept it or not, that's not on you, but the fact that
you have to offer
opportunity.
At what point did you hear Roland Martin say he'd offered equal time?
All right, please break down the different levels of media you told me earlier.
So there is mainstream media, which is MSNBC, CBS, ABC, what have you, right? Then there's independent media, which is, any.
Stop surviving and start thriving. Wealth Surge is going to help you to build lasting.
Right? Then there's independent media, which is, anybody with a microphone, anybody with a blog, podcast, things of that nature. And then you have what is being called Mindy, which is mainstream independent media, which means you're not exactly the big boys, but you're not just a regular person in their basement with, with a roadcaster. You are a person that or a company that has a certain level of pull. So you would fall under that. All hip hop would fall under that. Media takeout would fall under that. Roland Martin definitely falls under that. And so when you are positioning yourself in one way, like Roland Martin is, I'm a media company and bit. And you're not mad when Charlemagne does bit. And it's like, okay, dude, either you're a mainstream media company or you're a Mindy. You can't be both whenever it suits you. And the truth of the matter is you did not offer equal time. You did not disclose the fact that you got paid. You constantly complain that you weren't getting any money. And my whole thing is, if you want candidates to pay black media outlets, as you said, then you also have to tell me why you would not take Trump money. Because by that same token, iHeartRadio, Radio One, all of these other outlets have taken money from both campaigns to advertise. You never positioned your interview with Kamala Harris as an advertisement, and then you were walking around like you were her press secretary. Well, see here, she's going to be in this place, and then she's going to be in that place.
All right, the question I have for you now is, how would you go about, I understand the balance, but if you didn't do the balance, and I think he's an extreme case because he really went super hard with the Democratic.
Certainly.
But how would you disclose this is a paid interview to the public? You just put it up there. How does it work?
Like anything else, if you watch The View and they're doing a story on Disneyland, they will say that ABC is owned by Disney. Disney is our parent company. Right. This time was paid for. You could put it in a small disclaimer, just like they do for herpes medication. At the bottom, you got to put something up. Yeah, but he didn't do that. And until the FEC, put out the filings of where all the money went.
Been silent.
It would have been silent, but everybody knew it was going to come out in the wash, and if it didn't come out in the wash, it was going to come out in the rinse.
I think too, like listening to people and just reading comments, people could tell when you're like kind of going too hard in a particular direction.
Right, you're being a paid show.
Yeah. So like on here, we have people from all. I think we do a good job of balancing both sides and stuff.
Certainly.
But other people can tell, like, man, he's going a little too hard on this, so it must be some affiliation.
Absolutely. And the thing of it is, if you have your person, that's fine. But don't call yourself a journalist. That's it. Because journalism means that you're to be objective. The reason that Walter Cronkite was effective for 50 years, while Dan Rather was effective for 50 years, it was just the facts. And that's the way it is. That's not what's happening now. Everybody's got opinion pieces or think pieces. When I watch The View, for example, when I look at it today, and I can only look at it in clips because it drives me insane how tripped out they are. Everybody's going to die and it's so bad. That's not what Barbara Walters wanted for that show. You know, Barbara Walters is an actual journalist. She said for the first 10 years of that show, I had this idea for a show. Different women from different walks of life and different points of view. Now, everybody on that show is left-leaning and is crazy and, oh, Donald Trump's so evil, but y'all, half of them were up there talking about how good of a man Donald Trump was, how much of a friend he was, how Donald Trump didn't charge Whoopi Goldberg to be in her movie. So,
do you think it's a funding issue? Is it a sponsor issue?
All of the above.
Yeah.
I think people get paid. I can't trust somebody who gets paid 7 figures to push a certain agenda. And that certain agenda, if you notice, that certain agenda has become so pervasive, there's going to be a pushback. Scientifically, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if you're going so far to the left, the right is going to push back. And that's the thing. You act like you have people on that show who have contrarian points of view, but if they did, then why is it anytime they talk, you're ready to go to break, right? Anytime they say something that you don't agree with, you cut them off and say, oh, it's racism, it's misogyny, and this, that, and the third. And those things do exist, and you have to acknowledge them. But if somebody has an opinion different than yours, you're ready to yell and scream and this, that, and the third. And then you'll go so far as to ignore facts to a point where you had candidates threatening to sue ABC. That's why you keep seeing on The View, they keep having to read these legal notes, you know, so that's a problem.
I think what we're seeing is a reflection of society on a whole, though. You can't have people can't accept an argument that doesn't align with their belief system. Like the default mostly is aggression, getting loud, sometimes violence.
Right.
So I think we're intellectually immature collectively to where we can't have a conversation and disagree, and it has to blow up in this different thing. You know?
Right. But my whole thing with that is, sure, people, it's a sensitive subject. That's why they tell you in entertainment, don't ever talk about religion or politics, because it's very divisive. It's always been that way. Here's my issue. We live in a country where you can vote for whoever you want. That's your business. That's why they do it in a booth that's private. You also have the right to wear whatever paraphernalia you want to wear, do whatever you want to do, protest peacefully, all that kind of good stuff. I just saw a thing this morning on YouTube where there was a black woman who was a Trump supporter who got punched in the jaw by an old white woman who said, I can't understand why somebody black or brown or of color would ever vote for Donald Trump. And her next thing was to punch this woman in the jaw. And that Karen got arrested. But my whole thing is, like, you're trying to tell people that your side is the right side and you don't know how to improve your argument, so you resort to violence, you resort to name calling. You're doing what the late Kevin Samuels would refer to as sign language: shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right with a side of violence.
You're bringing up some great points, and what I'm noticing also is that politics has taken the place of religion as that place of solace, right? So before, it's like you look to whoever you deal with, right, for that kind of comfort, but now the saving grace is politics. Have you noticed that? Or
yeah, I think politics has always been akin to religion, right? The difference is a lot of, like, you go back 50, 60 years, you could go to the black church and you could organize because it was a safe haven, it was holy ground, it was respected. Now, not so much. If you're going in, you're going because, well, you know, pastor got a good message and, you know, I'm going to pay my tithe, so on and so forth. And I also think that people can believe in politics a lot more than they can believe in a God, where the only thing shiny in most densely populated black neighborhoods is the church, the weed spot, and the liquor store. So why am I going to give you 10% when you rolling? And I'm trying to figure out how I still have more month at the end of my money. I mean, show me how the black church is effective by and large. I don't want exceptions. I want the rule. I want the standard.
All right, I have a question here, right?
Sure.
Do you believe we will witness the end of Title I schools in America? And for those unaware, Title I programs provide supplemental financial assistance to school districts for children from low-income families or low-income areas, right? There is a plan. I hear numerous things. It's kind of mixed and muddled.
Yeah.
I'm hearing one thing or I'm reading an article saying that when this is implemented, they're going to cut federal funding to any school teaching critical race theory. They're going to end teaching tenure, create new credential body to certify teachers. This is one thing I actually agree with. Kick out of control troublemakers.
Yeah.
We could talk about that a little more. Another article is saying that they're going to allow teachers to carry concealed firearms. And a bunch of other stuff, right? But the question I have for you, do you think they're really going to end Title I?
I certainly hope so. Here's why. Again, we can argue your feelings. We can argue your thoughts, but you cannot argue facts. I am the son, nephew, brother, and father of public school teachers. We can have a conversation about anything you want, but I've seen this my entire life, right? Not only that, for shits and gigs, I went to the worst high school in America, Martin Luther King High School, class of 95. I was the class president. And it wasn't that hard to become class president.
You just had to sit there and chill. Like it
wasn't even that. It was like people just want to run. Yo, I'm cute. I'm the captain of the football team. Yeah, and I'm like, no. Here's a 5-point plan. We're gonna do this and that and that and this. And they was like, yeah, we don't want to do none of that. Let Dave do it. But again, when has Title I benefited Black American students by and large?
Never.
Never.
I taught at a Title I school.
Thank you.
Continue.
So now, let's also look at the fact that people are so hyped up on talking points and not hyped up on possibilities. So let's deal in facts. Fact number one, the U.S. Department of Education has an annual budget of $90 billion. Why are there so many schools folding in Chicago, in Baltimore, in Atlanta, in Philadelphia? Why? $90 billion? And no, we know that because this is another thing people don't understand. The states primarily control the schools. The U.S. Department of Education just doles out money. Right. Now, the other part of that is, have you ever seen the movie Lean On Me? Who's the good guy in that movie?
It's not Joe Clark, is it?
Joe Clark is the villain. You know what the good guy was? Lynn Thigpen's character. You want to know why? She was a concerned parent that kept coming to the school board like, yo, what are y'all doing? We need to get this dude out. He focusing on a test. My kids can't eat no test. Now, we have become a society of test takers and standard hitters, right? Because what it is for every kid, on average, we're looking between $30,000 to $50,000, depending on where you are, as long as you're in there. That's why those truancy laws are so important. That's why attendance is so important. It's not about creating great thinkers, because if you wanted to create great thinkers, then you'd have to go ahead and abolish the Rockefeller means of school, which has never, ever changed in the past 100 years. So now that we understand that, and we also understand that the American Federation of Teachers, which is the teachers union that oversees all the other teachers unions, are in bed with the state and local governments, as well as the federal government, you have to understand that this is not about educating your child. It's about creating a bunch of automatons that do not know how to think for themselves or process information.
Yeah, I want to jump back to the origins of education. I think people need to focus on the origins of public education in this country.
Certainly.
I think we moved away from that. It's not to have some great intellectual person.
Not at all.
So they wanted to create a person that could fit the
worker.
Hey, put this in your ear.
The worker society.
I know how you hate going to my parents' house because they're always speaking Spanish. You can never understand.
Worker that they needed at the time, a factory worker. Basic. Be able to process basic information and just stand there, don't argue with the boss too much and chill.
That's it.
We're still living in the same. It's not funny. We're still using that same approach to education in a totally different environment.
Certainly.
I don't know. I know people are real strong, especially with their education.
Mm-hmm.
To me, public education is just daycare at the end of the day.
That's all it is. It's things section daycare.
And
Yeah.
cheating from the teachers, cheating from the admin, and cheating from the students.
Right.
Because, and maybe I was in a distorted demographic, so I'll use what I was exposed to.
Certainly.
Majority of kids that I taught could not read on nowhere near grade level.
Right.
Like nowhere near. If they were 11th grade, maybe now 4th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the vibe. That's the reality of it.
Right.
Pushed out, whatever. What's the proper term when you just graduate kids?
Passing them through, passing them through. Yeah.
That's what we're dealing with right now.
Certainly.
And this is the tricky part with the finances. Admin are getting paid to do nothing, bro.
Certainly.
They are getting paid to do nothing.
If you want, because there are people who say, oh, Dave, you can't be an entrepreneur. You don't want to be an entrepreneur? Fine. Here's your hustle. Go to a 4-year university, right? Spit out everything because you're taught to regurgitate anyway. You've been doing that since preschool. Then what I want you to do, after you graduate with your 4-year degree, make sure you're getting your teacher certificate, then go back and get a principal certificate. And then you can make multiple 6 figures and not have to do anything other than make sure that the school doesn't burn down.
When did school start having 5-6 principals? I remember it was one principal, maybe assistant principal, and a dean.
When they decided to start merging schools together, regardless of cultural norms. So, for example, there is a bunch of, in Philly, they closed down Germantown High School, which is Martin Luther King's crosstown rival, right? Every Thanksgiving, there was a Martin Luther King Germantown game for years. And they put all those kids from Germantown in the same school.
You know they did that in East Orange, New Jersey. They had East Orange High and Clifford J. Scott.
Mm-hmm.
No one gets together on that side of town. They put them in the same high school.
Right.
I'm not sure if it's still a war going on now, but initially when it did, it was just nonstop fight.
Right, but of course, because it's a powder keg. See, human beings are always going to be tribal because we're animals. It's what we do. We stick with our own kind. We have tribalism and everything. We get Stacy and Michelle don't like all them chicks over in accounting because that's just how it is. So when you put people in there and then you say, you know what, we can do all this, but you know what, you don't want to lose your job. You don't want to lose your job. So we'll have a bunch of co-principals, right? So they do that in order to save money and then make more money in the long term, but they don't care nothing about them kids. And then you can't say, well, what's it going to? Their physical fitness? We're the fattest we've ever been, right? Are you saying it's going to the nutrition? No, you sold that out to Domino's Pizza, Pepsi, and Burger King. So where's the money really going? It's going to all the bureaucracy and the fat cats, but nobody wants to have that conversation because it's not possible. Now, let's get back to your initial thing, which was let's talk about the root of a thing, because you cannot distinguish the root of a thing from the fruit of a thing. So if John D. Rockefeller and his conglomerate of individuals created what we now know as the U.S. Department of Education to make sure that they had enough workers to fill these factories that they were building in order to create what we now know historically as the Industrial Revolution, they beat all the creativity out of you. That's the goal.
Facts.
Now, as a teacher, you'll attest that you are there and telling kids you can be whatever you want to be. But even you, as nice and as kind as you are, makes you a bit of a hypocrite because you want to know why. If a kid has something to say, what do they have to do? Okay, if they want to go to the bathroom, what do they have to do? When it's time to go outside for a recess for the kids who are in elementary school, what do they have to do?
Get in line, limited time.
Right, in size, order, efficiently, and walk out. They can't express themselves. You have to sit down, and if you don't sit down, because, boys, and even Dr. Umar Johnson will tell you, boys are wired differently than girls. We got to get up. We got to have movement breaks. No, but you tell these kids that they can be anything they want, but then you're punishing them for being individuals. The system is set up to create great workers, not great thinkers. If you think anything outside of what you're programmed to think, you're going to lose.
That's what I'm saying. People still say that now. I don't think the system is created to create great workers anymore. It's like that's already done. You get what I'm saying? Because
to a certain extent, yeah.
As I said, I only can speak about the environment I was in. So maybe that's extreme. It's not a broad thing. I know there are different levels and different. Of
course,
right? But like, I was telling a brethren the other day. So he was at one of the fast food spots, and he was saying how the person messed up their order.
Certainly,
I've been trying to explain to people that these kids never learn how to process not only reading comprehension, but verbal information. So a lot of issues you have when you're out at stores with people in the public, these are the kids who can't read in school.
Certainly.
Or they didn't have repetition of processing information.
Right.
You probably said chicken, they heard steak. Right. You said onions, they heard something else because they just in that school environment, they didn't learn that skill to function in society.
Right.
So that's like my biggest concern with schools.
Right. So here's the thing. No, when I say great workers, I don't mean great workers as in they're going to be top achieving workers.
Or even functioning workers.
I don't even need them to function. I just need a body that's not going to burn the situation down. That's it. I just need a body, right? I can get them to be good enough. I don't need that. I'm not shooting for perfection here. Then you also have to look at, even with that, entrepreneurs and big industry will always find a way to move the needle forward, regardless of what the government throws at them. Give me a little latitude on this. So you know how everybody's talking about, oh, well, everybody needs to have the minimum wage at $15 an hour. Okay, numbnuts. Here's how that works for a small business like you or I, right? That means we're going to have to cut bodies because we can't do that. It's impossible.
Realistic.
But McDonald's can do that. And here's what they'll do. They'll spend $30,000 and get a Flippy. For those of you who do not know what a Flippy is a machine that will drop fries, flip burgers, put them together wholeheartedly, bing, bang, boom, right? They'll get a moppy, which will come and robot mop the floor. And then there's one person and all he's doing is working the drive-through. So now you've gone from having a workforce on average per shift of 5 people down to 1. That one person gets paid $15 an hour and 4 people per shift lose their job. So you go from 15 people to 3. Because you wanted minimum wage. My whole thing is if you really want to fix education, if you really want to make a difference, if you really want to focus on something, stop advocating for your limitations. When you fight for your limitations, then you get to keep them. What you should be pushing for is a way to make sure that our children and the workforce that is here has what I call maximum skills, things that can't be taken away from. When I was in school and there were kids who just couldn't.
But if you or anyone you know have shopped for groceries at Walmart anywhere from 2018 to 2024, you need to watch this.
If you shop at Walmart, watch this immediately.
Now to the class action lawsuit against Walmart. The company agreeing to pay $45 million to settle that lawsuit. ABC's Alexis Christophorus is here with what it could mean for some consumers and possibly some money pockets, Alexis. If you live within 25 miles of a Walmart, then you can claim a gift card from them to $750. They owe customers $45 million and are required to give out gift cards as compensation to customers who answer a survey and qualify themselves. All you have to do is follow the link we attached to this video and it
can't be taken away from. When I was in school and there were kids who just couldn't do it for whatever reason, maybe they were bad, maybe, and when I say bad, I mean behavior problems, but they wouldn't be in school anymore. You know where they would go? They would go to Job Corps. And then they would get a skill. And then they could go be a welder, a plumber, a mechanic, a technician. They could do something that would allow them to thrive in a society that only rewards people in that environment based on how well they can regurgitate the same BS information that hasn't put a dime in anybody's coffers or a piece of food on anybody's plate. So we got to get ourselves to a point where we realize that the fix is in and the system is set up so that you become dependent upon it. And the problem with that now is that this country has set itself up for an internal 9/11.
I once heard you mention the internal 9/11 that may happen, right? But before we even get there, I've been talking to numerous restaurant owners, and I even spoke to a farmer down here in South Jersey, and they were telling me that if the plan is executed to remove immigrants, as they said, they're not sure how they will be in business. As I said, this is a small demographic. These are people I have spoken to.
Certainly.
Do you feel that restaurants and farms in America can continue if many people are deported?
Of course it can. Because we were doing fine before the 10 million people came over here in the past 3.5 years. So what are we talking about? Where was all this smoke for getting rid of illegal immigrants when the person who was once called the porter-in-chief sent 2 million packing and didn't do it cleanly, didn't do it systemically? Oh, because he was black and that was okay. What I'm about to say is going to piss people off, so just get ready for the comments and you might be flagged for this. I'm going to need black people to hold their own nuts. I just am. My grandfather was the son of a sharecropper and the grandson of a slave who were all peanut farmers. My paternal grandmother grew up on a dairy farm in South Carolina. So I'm trying to understand how all of a sudden we act like black people, black farmers, don't have the skills when there have been plenty of black farmers who have been crying out for subsidies since before Martin Luther King got killed. But what we want to do is shame millionaires and billionaires who are using illegal immigrants for whatever their particular devices and vices are. But now it's an issue because, oh, well, what about the restaurants? What about the Venezuelans that shut down Chicago the other day? What about the illegal Colombians who are coming over here and beating folks up in the head? What about the illegal immigrants in New York City that are terrorizing people in Central Park after dark? We got no conversation for that, and we're worried about all that? Are you serious? And then, by the way, how is it in this country we have people who were born here, don't have another country to go to because this is the only home they've ever known, who have been in this country since before Columbus, who now have to let other people come here illegally because they didn't want to follow the rules. They didn't want to go through the asylum process. They didn't want to go through the 7 to 10 years it takes to become a citizen. And they get food, they get shelter, and they get job training, while people who look like you and I, who built this country, can't get none of that because we don't qualify. We make too much money, this, that, and the third. Make it make sense. I'm gonna need black people to hold their own nuts. This ain't your fight. It ain't. They're not here legally. Ain't you the first ones hollering out how oppressed you are. Ain't you oppressed enough? Is this not oppressing you financially? Is this not oppressing you educationally? How are you worried about what restaurants will function when you're not even worried about how you're going to function while your resources are limited? If in fact, how many children do you have? You have one. Well, you have two. If you have two. But I will tell you, I went from having 1 to 2, and I can tell you there's a difference. So imagine having 2 million illegal immigrants in this country versus having an additional 10 that we can account for. That's not the number. That's the actual number. That's the number we can account for. Facts. So you're trying to tell me that doesn't have an effect on the economy? Surely you jest. But again, with the education system being what it is, I can see how you might not understand that. So yeah, no, restaurants will be just fine. They were fine 3.5 years ago with just 2 million illegals. They were fine when Trump was building the wall and closing the border. They'll be fine when they get the heck up on out of here. Like, I don't understand why historically, black people got into feminism. How'd that work out for us?
Not good.
How did by and large, because there'll be some civil rights benefited fat white women who wanted to work at Pan Am. Civil rights benefits people who have a different sexual orientation. We're always the last on the totem pole, but we're always the first to get our heads beat in for the cause. Why are we always putting ourselves in the line of fire for other people? Like, we wanted to fight in World War II, and they wanted to put us on the front lines. They wanted us to fight in the Civil War, and they put us on the front lines. We're constantly on the front lines, but on the back end, we're getting... I need somebody to explain to me why everybody else's needs and wants and rights are more important to our people by and large than our own rights are to us. I don't get it. I got nothing.
I was reading an article, right? And I said one of the things they want to do, they want to ban many government agencies from collecting racial or demographic data. Not only do they want to discontinue the practice on mortgage applications, government hiring, business loans, but at least 15 of their proposals suggest they start with deleting the term sexual orientation and gender identity. If this takes place, do you think black people will benefit from the ban on government agencies and businesses asking applicants about their race?
Absolutely. Because now you have to deal with the one thing that this country doesn't want to deal with, especially when people don't have the skills. It's called a meritocracy. I want the best. I do not want a person just because they're black. If I can find the best and that person happens to be black, phenomenal. 96% of my workforce, 96% of my executive team are black, specifically black women, right? I have people on my team who are not black, but that's 4%. 96% were the best of the best of the best that I could find. That's how it lays out for what I do. By that same token, how much do you love your family? Have you ever been on a plane with your family? Okay. Do you know the percentage of commercial airline pilots that look like you? Look like me?
I don't see that much.
Less than one.
Yeah, because I don't really see that much.
But if you go and you look at some place like these major airlines, whether that's Delta, Southwest, whatever the case, and I'm just saying arbitrarily, I'm not holding them to this particular standard, but there are some airlines that say that they want to hire more Black pilots. But if only 1% are hitting the bar to qualify and you're hiring more, then you're putting everybody's life in danger by hiring them based upon their race. That's why a meritocracy needs to happen. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care if I identify as a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. My pronouns are Mastodon. Like, are we serious right now? I want the best. Remember when you had to be the best? Do you remember there was a time, and I listen, as a person who used to be 500 some odd pounds and I'm sitting here 249, I can remember how much I hated in gym class the physical fitness test because I'd never passed it. I was a fat ass my whole life, right? I knew I wasn't going to make the team. When Belfield Recreation Center had a intramural recreation center citywide baseball program. I made third string right field. And you know why I was happy about that? Because there were 18 other people who never made the team. I was good enough to be third string right field.
Actually made that position.
I made that position. You know what we do now? Oh, let everybody win.
Don't get me started with that. We'll continue.
So at some point, why in the world, how many times have you in your lifetime, not me, not anybody in the comments, you in your lifetime, how many times have you talked to somebody who looks like you and I, and they say, man, I ain't get that gig because I'm Black?
A lot.
So if we eliminate that and it's just a blind situation, would it not stand to reason based on numbers that you'd have a better shot based on, wait for it, maximum skills?
But the question I say in regards to blind situation is it still blind? Because we do have addresses, we still have names, and there's still kind of hints of your demographic.
Certainly, but then that's discrimination, and that's when you can sue them back to the Stone Age. But see, y'all only want to sue when somebody gets shot. Y'all only want to sue when you know it'll make the papers. You only want to sue when it'll interest Ben Crump, and that's no diss to Ben Crump. I think the work he does, has a place. Look what he did for Botham Jean's family. They got 98.6 million. So I'm not knocking that. What I'm saying is, be litigious if you can prove that somebody is discriminating against you. Because I got that same amount of smoke for Wells Fargo for their discriminatory practices.
Predatory practice.
Yes, predatory. When it comes to business loans on Black people, they got a problem. When it comes to mortgage rates, they got a problem. When it comes to commercial lending, they've got a problem. When it comes to giving people credit, they got a problem. Big time. There's laws for that. You can sue for that. So now it just becomes enough of, hey, from a number standpoint, y'all should have more.
Or a balance in here.
Yeah, based upon the way that the country is made up, the numbers should math that out 9 times out of 10.
It should reflect the
It should reflect.
of the country.
Because if we're dealing with just numbers and skills and how things would fall, then that's how it would be. But you know what we won't do? We won't sue. What we'll do is this. Hashtag I want justice. Hashtag let's change our avatar. Hashtag let's boycott for one day. Just like y'all did Gucci, and as soon as Dapper Dan got his job back, y'all forgot about that.
The whole day, half a day.
Whole day, half a day. Y'all let, and this is no diss, but y'all let T.I. and some kid who used to be a used car dealer tell y'all to black out your avatars for one day. The protest, I don't even remember what the hell it was at this point. But these symbolic protests, they can wait you out. And then if you're going to protest effectively, make sure you have an ask and make sure you hold people accountable. It's people literally filing class action lawsuits behind whether or not this ingredient in this product has been pushed as natural and it wasn't. The reason we don't get taken seriously is because we don't do the things to make people hurt. There's only 2 things that this country understands. It's the loss of revenue or the loss of blood. And most of y'all won't bust a grape in a fruit fight, but you can start pulling your money away. But will you do that? No. So miss me with the bullshit. sorry. Just that's it, and that's all. Yeah, no. If you want to play on an equal field, then play on an equal field. Get your weight up and not your hate up. Like, go get it. You so big on how educated you are. Prove it. Prove that degree you got that you got is worth